Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are going to take a look at collocation and Philippine lexicography. First, the word collocation comes from the Latin word collocare, which means to place together. It is a sequence of words that go together more often than would be expected by chance. In other words, two or more words that often go together, like watch TV, listen to music. These combinations just sound right to native English speakers. We use them all the time. On the other hand, other combinations may be unnatural and just sound wrong. Natural English, unnatural English. We say fast train, not the quick train. Fast food, not quick food. So why learn collocation? First of all, language will be more natural and more easily understood. Secondly, you will have alternative and richer ways of expressing yourself. Finally, it is easier for our brains to remember and use language in chunks or blocks rather than a single word. How to learn collocation. Be aware of collocations and try to recognize them when you see or hear them. Treat collocation as single blocks of language. Think of them as individual blocks or chunks. And when you learn a new word, write down other words that collocate with it. Also, read as much as possible. Reading is an excellent way to learn vocabulary and collocations in context. Revise what you learned regularly. Practice using new collocations in context as soon as possible after learning them. And learn collocations in groups that work for you. You could learn them by topic like time, number, weather, or family, or by a particular word. So let's take a look at the different patterns of collocations made from the combinations of verb, noun, adjective, and more. Example, completely satisfied. We say completely satisfied, not downright satisfied. Even though downright is a synonym of completely, we just say completely satisfied. It sounds natural rather than downright satisfied. Another example is richly decorated and happily married. Richly and happily are adverbs, decorated and married are adjectives. Next, adjectives and noun. Heavy smoker, strong accent, hard life. Okay? So the green, they are adjectives, and the red, they are nouns. Noun plus noun, like cup of coffee. He will give a bar of chocolate to his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. Bouquet of flower. Her bouquet of flower is best of all. Verb plus noun. I always do my homework in the morning after making my bed. Do you think the bank would forgive a debt? We are going to have lunch together. Would you like to join? Next group, an adjective. Like ridiculously easy. Highly successful. That is utterly ridiculous. She didn't steal your favorite book. She wasn't even in the office yesterday. Utterly ridiculous. adverb plus adjective. And we have verb plus adverb, driving dangerously, English fluently, waited patient. So those are the different patterns of collocations. Next, moving on to our next lesson is Philippine lexicography. The history of dictionaries and dictionary making in Philippine society has been intertwined with that of colonialism and its aftermath. The Spanish colonies who established themselves in the decades after Magellan's landfall in 1521 soon found themselves governing a group of islands populated by different related groups, speaking in a large number of different dialects and languages, and having a multitude of sectional interests. There was no sense of nationhood throughout the islands in response to colonialism itself, nor did the Philippines have a strong literary culture that could outlive European intrusion, comparable to that of Sanskrit and Chinese. Philippine scripts did exist prior to the arrival of the Spanish, and most such texts written in palm leaves and bamboo. Scripts were derived from the Indic Old Kawe script of Java, one variety of which has survived in the Mangyan script of Mindoro, where such writing is used for love songs and correspondence. Lexicographical scholarship began with the Spanish missionaries who responded to the need to translate the word of the Catholic Church into the indigenous languages as early as the 16th and early 17th centuries. Such work included Father Pedro de San Buenaventura's 1613, Vocabulario de la Tagala and Mentridas, 1637, Vocabulario de Lengua Bisaya Hiligayna y Haraya, 1977. Scores of dictionaries and grammars followed by the mid-19th century. The Spanish friars had compiled dictionaries of not only Tagalog and Visayan, but also Gadang, Ilocano, Hiligaynon, Ibanag, Pampangan, Bicol, Pangasinan, Chamorro, and Cebuano. On the outset, Tagalog appeared to gain most support from the friars, while the origins of the Philippine national language movement may be traced back to the pioneering scholarship of Spanish friars. The American contribution to the Philippine lexicography was somewhat limited, although linguists such as Frank R. of Johns Hopkins University chronicled not only contemporary American linguists' endeavor but also the work of the Spanish missionary linguists who had preceded them. And for Blake, like Chirino, 3 centuries earlier, Tagalog was the chosen language, and he asserted that if Filipinos are destined ever to have a national language in which a national literature can be written, that language will almost surely be Tagalog, the language of the capital city, a language admirably cited by the richness of form and its great flexibility for literary development, the needing for the master hand of some great native writer to make it realize its latent possibility. In the post-war and post-colonial period since 1945, the efforts of national language scholars have been to promote the national language. In 1959, this was renamed Filipino and its word stock expanded to allow borrowings from other Philippine languages, Spanish and English. Later, in 1973, the name of the national language was again changed, this time to Filipino. However, it was not until 1989 that Institute of National Language from 1992 renamed the Commission on Filipino Language, published the first authoritative monolingual dictionary, the Diksyonaryo ng Wikang Filipino. The publication of the dictionary is seen by Newell of 1991 as a milestone in national language has come of age. Other commentators have been more skeptical, and Zor, for example, notes comprehensive dictionaries of the language are simply too expensive for most to replace media and word of mouth as the vehicle for national language formation in the Philippines. One obvious argument in this context is that national language formation process in the Philippine context is barely complete, and those dictionaries that do exist lack the power and prestige of national dictionaries in Europe and in US. In a society where language issues are deeply enmeshed in politics, it is also possible that the relative weakness of national language development may also reflect a Philippine nationalism incomplete, a nationalism interrupted by U.S. colonialism, war, and often turbulent topics of the present and recent past. In this context, it is perhaps unsurprising that there is a little real market demand for a comprehensive dictionary of Philippine English. Yet another complicating factor is the hybrid nature of the Filipino language itself, with some linguists estimating that as many as 30% of Filipino root words are loan words from Spanish, Malay, Chinese, and English. In recent years, the national language has borrowed voraciously from English, often reflexifying vocabulary according to the norms of Filipino orthography with such items as basketball, high school, record, police, television, taxi, ticket, and waiter, which in turn raises multiple questions concerning the dynamics of language, contact, and the lexicons of new Englishes. Numerous editions of Merriam-Webster spread large across the dictionary shelves of the National Bookstore and most other Philippine bookshops, despite the particular historical origins, attitudinal bias, and limitations of the Webster's coverage of Philippine English vocabulary. And that ends my report. Thank you for listening.